is a bit of biology with Mr. Rock, and today we're going to be doing an introduction to evolution. To start things off, we're just going to ask the question, what is evolution? And to answer that question, we're just going to start off with the definition. Evolution is the development of new organisms from pre-existing organisms over a period of time. Oftentimes, when we talk about evolution, we know kind of the common statement that humans came from monkeys. We are not going to be getting into this today or where we came from. We actually shared a common ancestor with chimpanzees, but saving that conversation for a later day. This topic is also a little, ties into beliefs a little bit, so sometimes people can get pretty heated when we're talking about this, but we're just going to be talking about it from a strictly academic perspective today. So just kind of definitions and what evolution is. So evolution is changing organisms over a period of time. Why does evolution happen? There's two big things of why evolution would happen. The first is environments change over time and mutations occur. So the mutations give genetic variation, and changing environments is going to select for new species. Evolution also occurs so that organisms can survive changing environments. So environments are constantly changing, food sources are coming in, shelter is going away, reproduction preferences are changing. So evolution allows populations to continue surviving over a long period of time. So today we're going to talk about two different people and their theories on evolution. The first one that we're going to be talking about is this guy named Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. The main thing that I want you to know about him is he had an idea for evolution, but he was absolutely wrong. Matter of fact, if you want to take on your notes packets, if you want to write that he was wrong next to it, you want to put a cross through his name. He had an idea of how evolution works, but it was totally off. So his theory was inheritance of acquired traits. What it actually means is he had this idea of use and disuse. So what that means is in an organism's life, if they used a trait or a characteristic, and they used it a lot, then they would pass on that trait to their offspring. And if they didn't use it, the trait would deteriorate. So with this being said, on the previous slide, I'm going to jump back to it just real quick. On the previous slide, there's a giraffe reaching for food. And on this slide, there is a really strong man on the right-hand side. So Lamarck's idea was pretty much that a giraffe had a really long neck because the mama giraffe has to stretch her neck during her lifetime so she can eat food. And that because she worked her whole entire life of stretching her neck, that she passed on her long neck stretching to her kid, and she acquired that trait in her lifetime. So the reason why I have this up here, like a way that you could think about this for humans is if you had a guy that was an insane weightlifter and he lifted a lot of weights and he became really, really muscular, Lamarck would have said that because this man is muscular and really strong, he is going to pass on his strong traits to his kid. And his baby is going to come out of the womb and be absolutely jacked. It's going to be a really strong baby, and that's because the man acquired those traits in his lifetime and he passed them down. Like I said, this is wrong. Lamarck was incorrect. The guy that actually we care about now and we know is right, his name is Charles Darwin. And a picture of him is to the right. We know him to be the father of evolution. So Charles Darwin is the father of evolution. We're going to learn a lot about Charles Darwin. I guess the first thing that you should know is that he made a trip to the Galapagos in 1835. So if you don't know where the Galapagos Islands are, I'm going to have you look down to this map here. So Galapagos Islands, right here, it is to the west of South America, and it's like in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So west of South America. And when he went on his expedition, he made a lot of observations, and he actually ended up creating a theory of evolution. Before we get to his theory of evolution, I do want to just talk about the organism that he observed. When you go to type in Google, when you type in Darwin, the first thing that pops up is Darwin's finches, because this is the organism that he observed. When he was on the Galapagos Islands, he observed that different species of birds, or finches, finches are just birds, were adapted to their environment based off of the food that was on each island. Let's say that one more time. He observed that these finches had different traits, different characteristics, different beaks, based off of the food that was on each island. So they are adapted to their environment. So the way that he made these observations were primarily through their beak size and their beak shape. And he noticed that if a bird was going to be eating seeds, that the birds that ate seeds had really kind of large, strong beaks so that they can break open the seed and they can eat. This is opposed to maybe a finch down here on the right that would be eating insects and needed a smaller beak to either work with tools or get really tiny insects. So having a large beak to get insects wouldn't be that valuable. So he made these observations and he created the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is really broken up into two parts. There's one, the idea of natural selection. And then number two is the concept of descent with modification. Natural selection is the idea where organisms better adapted to their environment tend to survive more and reproduce more offspring. So what this actually means is if we go back to Lamarck and you look at the giraffes, Lamarck's idea was if a giraffe stretched their neck throughout their lifetime, their neck would get longer, they'd pass their long necks onto their kids. Darwin's idea was with natural selection, better traits survived in the environment and those better traits were able to have offspring. So there are long neck giraffes, but there are also short neck giraffes. This picture is a little sad because the little neck giraffe dies because they can't get enough food. But long neck giraffes live on and they pass on their genes to their offspring. If you look on the image on the left, you have different beetles. Beetles that are darker colored blend into their environment more. Beetles that are darker colored are more likely to be eaten, and the sand colored beetles survive more because they blend in with their environment. So these are just two examples of traits being successful, and because of that, organisms being able to pass on their genes. Finally, the last concept here is descent with modification. So like I said, theory of evolution, there was two main principles. One was natural selection. The last one is descent with modification. This idea is pretty much stating that each living species has descended with changes from other species over time. So over a long period of time, a species has undergone small, tiny changes from pre-existing ancestors, and that has led them to be the organism they are today. So this is the descent with modification concepts. This pretty much also implies that all living organisms at one point had a common ancestor. So we all evolved from a common ancestor. That's what this theory implies. This has been a bit of biology with Mr. Rock. I'm signing off.